Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Well, I do hope you've enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. And by the way, normally we would stay in the city for the fireworks, and it felt a little weird to go home, but it was just so hot on July the 4th that we ended up staying in. And I have to say, the fireworks going off around us had to be that exact same feeling in 1776, on July 4th, 1776. So I can only imagine that actually hearing it in your local neighborhoods felt almost like it would have in Philly in 1776 when we actually declared the independence, fireworks going off all over the place. On that note, July 4th also is special because of this moment.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. When you look around, wouldn't you consider it privilege to associate yourself with such a fine-looking man as is standing in uniform in this ballpark today? That I might have been given a bad grade, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thanks.
Such a humble guy was Lou Gehrig, and let me tell you, he did not play a season battling ALS in 1938 in vain. Because I've got some news. See, this is the thing. Once June 2nd rolls around, once June 10th, which is actually Gehrig's birthday, June 2nd is actually the day he passed from ALS. But when you get past those dates, and of course when you get past July the 4th, the actual day of the speech, you tend to think, all right, well, we'll talk about ALS tomorrow or the next day or next year, really. But I want to continue the conversation daily. That's why I signed up for the ALS Association's newsletter. And would you believe it? I got a really hopeful sign for those living with ALS today. According to the July e-newsletter, the National Academies is reporting, after an 18-month study, that there is a roadmap to turn ALS from fatal to livable within a decade. ALS Association, ALS advocates, and yes, Congress did do something right here. They secured $1 million in congressional funding for the study. So, Mr. Gehrig, you did not make that speech in vain. You did not play with ALS in vain. We are heeding your call and continuing to make the lives of people with ALS even more luckier, dare I say. The ALS Association actually sent this out, and what I did not know was that at least 30,000 people in the U.S. are living with ALS at any given moment, a rapidly progressive fatal neurological disease. Veterans have also been found to develop ALS more so than non-veterans. In 2022, Congress directed the National Institutes of Health to commission a National Academies Committee to recommend key actions public, private, and non-profit sectors should take to make ALS a livable disease in the next 10 years. More on this report, by the way, will be discussed at the ALS Nexus Conference July 15th to 17th in Texas, in Dallas, Texas. So I love that there's a group of people that took this into their own hands in the ALS organization, got Congress involved, now have veterans with ALS eligible for an array of medical and social service benefits. And beyond that, it's not just a presentation on the field on July 4th or June 2nd around the country of those dealing with ALS. There's a real drive, a real grassroots effort to get ALS cured for the thousands that live with this disease. I could go through the recommendations, I might, but here's what the CEO of the ALS Association, Kalanit Ballas, said, "This new report is hugely important for the future of the fight against ALS. We still need to review and discuss each of the individual recommendations, but taken as a whole, it's clear there needs to be a significant investment in ALS research and an overhaul of how ALS care is delivered and paid for." This is also the Americans with Disabilities Act month. July is a big month for the disabled community, and to hear that this research is providing those with this disability more longevity is so exciting and so important to talk about that, yes, it's not just honoring those with ALS on June 2nd, June 10th, and July 4th. It is beyond that. And I am very proud that Congress sees that it's beyond those 3 dates. And here's what they recommend. This was kind of staggering information, if you will. Firstly, medications for ALS can cost $150,000+ a year. This is what the National Academies found. And in general, it can cost tens of thousands of dollars per year. Can lead to lost wages, travel to care and clinical trials, insurance barriers. Interestingly enough, those with ALS could be denied coverage. So I'm going to run down and I'm going to put these different links up on the podcast page in the description below. But recommendation 3.1 says, to improve the quality of life, to make it more livable in the near term. CMS and private insurance should act quickly to enable expedited access to the following ALS medical and support services: home-based and outpatient support services, responses to prior authorized requests within 72 hours, services for people with ALS without requiring functional improvement. That's huge. Require reimbursement of multidisciplinary care using a bundled payment model. This is great. Allowing eligibility for Medicare for people with ALS regardless of age, employment history, or other Medicare SSDI criteria. This will enable all persons with ALS to access and make full use of ALS care. Congress should act quickly to enable all persons with ALS to access timely specialty ALS care by allowing this eligibility to take place. And then 3 of 3. ALS nonprofits should collaborate to centralize resources, guiding people with ALS to financial support for mental health services, home modification, durable medical equipment, assistive technology, and transportation. Financial support for the caregivers of those with ALS. And I didn't realize this. Most deaths from ALS actually result from respiratory failures. So they're thinking, well, let's have non-invasive ventilation, which will improve the quality of life and is a standard care of ALS, of those with ALS. Current medical requirements has 50% lung function reduction for home ventilation. I think they're saying let's get more of more Medicare coverage for those with respiratory illnesses stemming from ALS. This is so important that I love that we're seeing Congress actually work for this sector of people with disabilities. I selfishly wish there would be many more organizations working hard for those with disabilities, as much as the ALS advocates are working right now. Because they're getting things done, they're getting research done, they're in the ear of Congress. Congress approved a $1 million study. And the study took place from March 2023 to February 2024, including 3 virtual workshops, ad hoc meetings, and lived experience consultants reviewing the report. So, Lou Gehrig felt like the luckiest man, and I don't think he really got the gravity of the groundwork he laid for those ALS in the future, for those advocates in the future to really grab onto this and say, we're going to support those with ALS. Congress is now saying, we're going to support those with ALS. So I just want to bring this to your attention, and hopefully maybe we'll have someone on prior to or after this conference to discuss more about what that conference said for those with ALS. But my point, as it is every July with every disability, the conversation doesn't stop at the awareness month or the awareness day. The conversation is always going. People with disabilities always grapple with their disability every day. It doesn't just roll in and out because politics and politicians want to roll it out for 1 month and then put it back in till next year. That's why Congress doing this for those with ALS is so important and should inspire others to get in Congress's ear. Say, you know what? Those with ostomies should be more represented. Those with CP should be more represented in Congress. There should be more dialogue for more disabilities in the congressional halls of Washington. And take the lead from what the ALS Association and its partners and its advocates have done to secure $1 million funding for this disease. Because yes, we may have a gala every year at Gracie Mansion for those with disabilities on July 26th. But the battle rages on every day. For some, it's a fight to wake up every day, and they do it. And they do it at will, with such power to keep going. So I'm glad ALS is saying we're not just going to be the center of attention for 1 day, 2 days. We're going to keep being in the spotlight for those with ALS. So I implore all people with disabilities, whatever the quote-unquote condition, I hate the word condition, but whatever the condition might be, or the disability might be, you too can get this kind of action done if we just put our mind to it, our hearts to it, and look to the ALS Association, who's literally written the book on advocacy for those who are disabled based on this report and getting this report done alone. So yes, we can replay the speech every year on July 4th. We can play it on June 2nd. We can wear the number 4. But the backbone of all of this awareness is driving the ship even more to finding results. And I'm just so proud that the ALS Association is proud to report is able to report this, to find answers as a result of an 18-month study by the National Academy. A roadmap for turning ALS from fatal to livable. More on the links below. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.